good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Now, when we talk about the word tenacious, persistence, someone who won't be easily dispelled, we're talking about a woman who many persons may have not even expected for her to keep going. But this morning she shows up, she smiles bright, and she presents herself as Mrs. Kezel Jackson, the new political leader of the All People's Party. Good morning and welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here this morning, Mr.
Thank you
Jackson.
very much, Shenell, and thank you as well to your viewing audience.
Now, when we talk about someone who persists, someone who deems themselves as being the voice of the voiceless and representing those who may not be able to represent themselves, Kezel Jackson, you stand firm. This morning, we thank you for the work that you have been doing, regardless of everything that we have seen you go through in the public eye. Now, when we talk about women in leadership, women often face a lot of ridicule, and we see a lot happening where gender equality is concerned and gender equity to try to bridge that gap. And a lot of the things that we have seen come up in the past with women leader has to do with a lot of their personal life. And there have been many strides towards moving away from that and moving towards potential, moving towards work, moving towards performance, and away from what a woman does in her private time. Now, regardless of everything that you have been through, you wake up, you put on your smile, you put on your clothes, you put on that camera, you go live on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you have to go to get the message across. But this morning, you're here live on Tobago Updates to talk about the fact that you're venturing into leading from the front and not from the side anymore. Now, we know you to be a former deputy political leader of the PDP, the Progressive Democratic Patriots, alongside Mr. Watson Duke. But now you have moved out of his shadows and you are stepping into your own light, moving into your purpose as your own political leader for the All People's Party. Tell us a bit about that move, and good morning again.
Oh my goodness. Good morning. I must say that that introduction was one that resonated with me deep, Shenell, and I thank you for it. All People's Party, I want to provide a platform for all to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, and also to be represented. I wish for us to move away from oppressive and repressive politics, one that it is as though it is a bit of non-exclusivity for some, and there's not equality and equity for every medium of the social strata. I wish to stand for a voiceless bunch of people who want representation. So this is both a revolution and an evolution. This is the mother of politics. I stand as the mother of this nation today and the mother of politics to say to Trinidad and Tobago, as I always say, I cannot speak about Trinidad if I don't speak about Tobago. Any good mother would not separate and segregate one child from another. If I can't give to both, I cannot give to any.
Now, that's a big statement to make, specifically based on the fact that the general elections are approaching and there are two coveted Tobago seats, Tobago East and Tobago West. So are you saying to us, as you include Tobago, that you are also putting your party up to vie for those two Tobago seats in the upcoming general election?
I am saying that resoundingly, that the All People's Party, as the name suggests, all people, we will be representing all people of both Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, you know that the political strategy when it comes to capturing Tobagonians is quite different from that of Trinidad. Tobagonians have a very strange voting pattern. You might see one thing happening at the THA elections and another happening at the general. You might see people coming out to vote, more at the THA and less during the general election. So I don't want you to come out and give any of your political secrets on air, but when it comes to approaching Tobagonians and getting the buy-in from them, have you already started the groundwork? And will you see yourself being successful among Tobagonians?
What I will say to you, Shenell, is a good question, because we also have to look at the psychodynamics. Remember, my background is in psychology and sociology first. understanding the human mind, our culture, our experiences, it varies. Yes, that culture of Trinidad is not the same culture of Tobago. The need and the wants of Trinidad is not the same need and wants of Tobago. But what I'm saying to Tobago is, I'm asking you, put your representative forward. And yes, we will stand for you as well.
Okay, and when it comes to the internal workings of this new party, have you already formed your executive? And are you currently on a recruitment drive for potential candidates?
Yes, we are. So we have an interim executive that sits at present at the headquarters in Trinidad. That is 44 Abercrombie and Park Street. But yes, we are recruiting. There are many persons coming forward asking to be a part. And I say to you, we are an inclusive party. We have space for everyone.
Okay, and can we also see an office being set up here in Tobago?
Today as well, I'm doing some site visits, looking at some feasible locations. So yes, your question is right.
All right. Okay, excellent. And when it comes to your strategy in Trinidad, we know that you put on a lot of your resources, your connections, your network, some of your partnerships into establishing the PDP in Trinidad, and that did not go well in the end. How has that affected, whether negatively or positively, those relationships or those networks that you had before that would have been able to provide that campaign resources that you needed? Has that negatively impacted those relationships?
Shenell, this is one of the better interviews, I would say, and some of your question is not the stereotypical question. I also commend you. Now, what is happening, I wouldn't say it's a waste, because if I invest in the people, it's never a waste. If I invested in the politics, then it would have been a waste. And to me, my investment, it was in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's never wasted. And a tree grows first by the roots. I was doing a lot of groundwork to the grassroots people, providing opportunities where there weren't any. So is it a waste? No, in that regard. In terms of relationships, it takes rebuilding. Yes, and I will not lie down. I stand up and I fight. I fight to rebuild something better, stronger, and greater, Shenell.
Right, and now we know that typically there has been a voting culture present specifically in Trinidad. It does not trigger, it doesn't trickle over into Tobago, but there is that tribal politics that exists. As much as we're trying to get away from that, it still exists. You have persons still voting based on ethnicity. So how have you decided to enter that arena to upset that culture?
What we find happening now, there's also a level of stagnation, political stagnation, regardless of race, class. So we're trying to move away from the classism and the racism and the different prejudicial divides that divide us, yes? And the politicians, they have used it selectively as an opportunity. Now, if we were to say there's also another paradigm that they sell us that is also part of classical conditioning. If we were to say that Trinidad is bipartisan, it is a lie. Because from the very inception in 1956, we had about 8 political parties, from Butler Party to the Democratic Party to the PDP. And the PDP that time was the People's Democratic Party, led by Badesi and Eric Williams' People National Movement, along the TNP, the PNP, and other political parties. So in our political climate and landscape, there have always been several political parties. But in terms of the mainstream now, there was an evolution that took place from the PDP to the DLP to the ULP to the UNC. And now the present 2 leaders, they use race to divide because of the social strata division in Trinidad and Tobago, predominantly East Indians and Africans, when we look at the majority in terms of our statistical analysis. Now, regardless of race, we face the same problems. Regardless of culture, class, we face the same problems. A Trinidad and Tobago that is stagnated. We look at a health system that is unhealthy. Persons going into the hospital, sometimes waiting for 3, 4, sometimes 36 hours just to get a bed. Then some people waiting on their deathbed to get surgery done, having to wait sometimes 3 years, only to hear that they can do it at a private doctor just in 1 week time or sometimes 1 day time. We have an unjust justice system. We have a society that is ridden by crime, both Trinidad and Tobago, regardless of race and class, we feel it. So when we look at the issues now, we are going beyond the tribal and the racial politics and dealing with the people. Who sees race when you see another murder, another woman blood that is running on the street? Do you see race? Who sees race when a mother cannot buy books for her children and school is about to reopen? Who sees race when you lie in a hospital bed waiting for aid? Who sees race at that time?
Right. And when it comes to the type of resources that are needed to win an election, is it that you are entering to have some skin in the game, as we call it, when it comes to politics? Or are you truly looking to make a clean sweep? Because statistically, new parties don't win elections. So what is your intention?
Well, statistics is one that can change. It is not static, neither is it constant. It is depending on what takes place. It results in statistical analysis and statistical data. What will take place is based on the political will of the people and the will of God. If there's an appointment, there's an anointing. If there's an anointing, there's an appointed. But the political will of the people must speak. If the people are happy with their present governance, by all means, allow it to continue. But if you are not happy and you want an alternative form of representation from the mother of this nation, I say to you, put us there.
All right. And what district or constituent are you currently targeting?
But I would never this present time. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Now, many will say that you have a lot of potential. And before being a part of the PDP, you were traveling, you had your foundation, you were living your best life. Do you regret taking that step off your path and doing that?
That question is a beautiful personal introspection that sometimes you ask yourself from time to time. I don't want to lie to you. There are days when you wonder, am I really going to do this? But yes, collectively, because prior to the politics, I've always been a humanitarian. Why? Because I come from poverty. I understand what it is like not to have. So I always look back and give back. Secondly, in terms of my travel and destination show, I was the first out of the Caribbean to be featured on international platforms like AFM and EFM, American Film Market and European Film Market. I've always been an author with many books published on Amazon. I've also been a lecturer. Yes, a philanthropist. These are some of the accolades and titles that I hold. But my most prize, other than being a mother, is that of the passion and carrying the heart of a people. Where I see that there is no leader, I stand to lead.
Excellent. And we're going to take a quick break right here. We're going to come back and we're going to continue our conversation right after this. See you soon, guys. Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. If you're now joining us, man, that is just too bad, because we've been having a really interesting conversation this morning with the political leader of the All People's Party, Miss Kezel Jackson. Good morning and welcome back, Miss Jackson. Now, we've been chatting a lot, but right before we took the break, you touched a bit on not only some of your accolades, but some of your experiences, as well as some of the things that you would have dedicated your time and your life and your effort and resources to. One of those things is the Kezel Jackson Foundation. Tell us a bit about that. When did that start? And, what has been birthed out of that since?
No problem. So with the Kezel Jackson Foundation, it started out of a promise I made to my grandmother. And I said, I am going to do it. Regardless of sometimes how challenging it can be, I am going to do it. I will persevere with it. And that foundation has changed so many person's lives. It also is a form of refreshment for me. It adds As you know, sometimes I tell people it's not so much about what they write on the tombstone when you die, but is what you write in the heart and the mind of people that you leave behind. That foundation we have done from medical drive to law for the layman on the grassroots on the ground. It has put children back in school to universities, to helping in terms of medical assistance to surgery. The foundation speaks not from my mouth, but allowed to speak from that of the people.
Right. And tell us, how does a foundation like yours get the type of financial or the type of resources needed to do this type of work without government intervention?
In terms of foundation, you have to be strategic as well as to how you can raise funds. That's the core problem. Yeah. In my foundation, I would tell you the resources came from myself. There was no contributor, nobody donating. It was my resources, my give back. It was something personal for me, right? So it's nothing profitable, but personal.
Right. And what about those charity drives where, you get some of those wealthy or more fortunate persons to come on board to also donate?
Donation is something that's intrinsic, that comes from the heart of a person rather than just their pockets. So if persons wish to contribute, we welcome it, but it goes on regardless.
Right. And if the persons who you would have interacted with the Kezel Jackson Foundation were to describe you, how do you think they would describe you?
You need to call them on air.
All right, no problem. We can do that. We can ask them to call in later on if they have been impacted. But you are not only focusing on the grassroots Trinidadian when
No.
it comes to your foundation. As you said in your introduction, sorry, Tobago is also a part of that network that you are trying to reach. So tell us how the Kezel Jackson Foundation has decided to enter Tobago to give back to Tobagonians.
I wouldn't say decide to enter because my grandmother, she was Tobagonian. So we didn't decide to enter. We are here.
Okay.
We are here working with single mothers for the last 2 years, working with single mothers on the ground. Last year we had the book drive. This year again, I continue with the book drive for some of the single parents. So as much as we can, we continue to do.
Excellent. And what are some of your goals for the foundation within the next 5 years?
Within the next 5 years, I want to see a much more egalitarian Trinidad and Tobago. One where equity and social finance will be distributed evenly in terms of the opportunity to have a better quality and standard of living for every citizen.
And you plan to contribute to that using the All People's Party.
Yes.
Now, persons might think this party sounds a bit familiar to the Tobago People's Party. When you came up with that name, tell us a bit about that process and why it might sound so similar to what we see happening in Tobago with the Tobago People Party with political leader Fali Chavez Augustin.
No problem. So there were several names that were submitted. Now, to have a party, you first must register with Legal Affairs. You submit several names and see which one of those names you can get approval from. But sometimes what is similar, as you know, isn't always the same. And even what is the same may have different connotations and meanings.
All right. And so tell us what really goes behind the name All People's Party. I mean, I guess it sounds a bit self-explanatory, but give us a bit about the philosophy behind that.
No problem. All People's Party is just as the name suggests, all. A party that is very much inclusive, that is not segregational, discriminatory, doesn't divide. A party that embraces all persons regardless of your social strata or class within Trinidad and Tobago. The party's vision is for a brighter and better Trinidad and Tobago, one that we can be proud of, one that we find comfort and solace in.
Have you been paying attention to the crime situation that's been escalating in Tobago?
Yes, I have.
And how do you feel about that?
I think now is a time for both Trinidad and Tobago, for the leaders of our nation to ring the bell. You know, when there's an emergency, you sound the alarm. It is time now for them to sound the alarm. We need a multinational security support system. We cannot do it in isolation. Crime and criminality as it stands, it needs a holistic, multidimensional intervention. It starts with looking at the social strata, poverty, education, school dropouts, what's taking place on the ground, also targeting the psychodynamics and the ethnic faces behind crime. If we were to be honest, the faces of crime is predominantly the young black male. Why is that young black male so easily targeted, so easily recruited? What is happening among that class of people that is redirecting them into this gang society? Because we have a lot of gang, we have a lot of guns as well. We have to look at our borders. What is happening with our borders? What is happening with the Coast Guard? Who is actually guarding these borders? Who is bringing in these high-powered rifles? Is it the same young black boy that do not have the means? So in whose hand? We also have to look at the white collar crime, the white collar shadow that stands behind that young black boy. What is happening? What is happening with the psychology, with the conditioning? What is happening with the role of the church and the role of the family? What is happening when that single mother cannot stay in the home to supervise that child or children because it's a hustler's mentality? The mother is trying to provide bread on the table, and every day she's going out there looking for bread while the children are home unsupervised. What is happening when so many absent fathers are still going out there and just multiplying without taking their responsibility seriously? What is happening? What is happening in our prison system that so much remand inmates are inside there waiting for justice, sometimes just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Are they conditioned now to come out as normal law-abiding citizens? What is happening? What is happening with the rehabilitation process for those criminals that would have been incarcerated and they come out? The recurring decimal that is taking place of more criminal activities. What is happening? What is happening with our prison system now, with prisoners as well as prison officers engaging in crime inside of the jail? What is happening? What is happening when public servants feel as though they are not appreciated, begging for 4% and still cannot get it? What is happening? What is happening with our level of crime, corruption, and fraud in Trinidad and Tobago? I tell you, my dear girl, this is a collective problem. This is a holistic problem that cannot be dealt with in isolation. But first, we must go to the head of the fish. Cut off the head of the fish.
Right, and let's imagine a situation where after political leader Kezel Jackson has mounted this platform, that she is now the lone person for her party sitting in the parliament. How do you think you can contribute to change in Trinidad and Tobago at that level if your party hasn't won but you are sitting there?
I would tell you is that sometimes even one voice in a silent room makes a difference.
Right. And you think that the type of change that you want to see specifically in the communities that you have targeted and the narrative that you are trying to change, do you think that on your own you can do that? Or would you be willing to, at that stage, negotiate and partner with one of the existing political parties?
At present, I was approached by political parties to make an amalgamation, which cannot happen. Why? If we are moving away, is the easier way to enter, I will tell you that. But if you're looking for the authentic way to enter, then I choose to stand with my political ideology and that of my party. They are but one coin on two different sides, but it's still one coin, Shenell.
Right. And that was what should I ask or should I not ask? Would you be willing to do what some may deem to be the easier thing and join an existing party that has the type of resources that it takes to win a national election?
Shenell, to me, it's not about winning a national election, yeah? Because my purpose was never in politics. So you could have all the resources. I stand against the Goliath of the politics, but you know what? I will stand as the David with victory. Victory will come if the people so decide.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back as we continue this interesting conversation with Miss Kezel Jackson. See you soon, right after this. Let's go. Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I mean, it's sad and a bit unfortunate that as I come back this morning, we are rounding up such an amazing discussion that I've been having with the political leader of the All People's Party, Miss Kezel Jackson. Now, we spoke a bit about some of the work that her foundation has been doing and how they have done some work in Tobago with single moms. But we are seeing that even today, work is being done. Tell us about what's happening with the Kezel Jackson Foundation in Tobago today.
Chanel, many of those single mothers would have reached out to me. And as I say, sometimes we will not be able to help all, but we can help some. And I do hope that more organizations, more political parties come together and understand that it's not about the politics, but the real treasure is that of the people.
Right. So tell us exactly what the drive that's happening today. I know you indicated that there is a book drive. Where is it happening? What time?
That was not really supposed to be publicized.
Okay.
That which I wish to do, it was a personal contribution to
Okay.
some of these single mothers. Yeah.
Well, excellent.
Yeah.
And great that you decided to put that out there here
Yeah.
on Tobago Updates. But I'm guessing next year, persons can reach out to you if they are looking for that type of assistance, or if they are in a dire situation. How can they get into contact with you?
My contact number is available for all and sundry, yes. 1-868-689-3282. That number again, 1-868-689-3282.
And what are some of the upcoming plans and projects we can expect from you, your party, your foundation? Let the people know.
We're on the ground. We are moving on the ground, So there's a lot of grassroots movement. As more water a tree gets, is the further the roots sometimes can grow. So we plan without any restriction to keep going and growing as much as the will of God allows us to.
Excellent. And is there anything that you want to tell the people before you go this morning? We know that time is of the essence and you are running as everyone is trying to get a piece of you while you're here in Tobago. Let the people know.
What I want to say to you is morning time, and I want you to dare to dream. Dare to dream and hold on to that dream. Dream of a better Tobago. As I would always say, I travel to many countries, but my favorite gem is that of Tobago. Dare to say that Tobago has the oldest rainforest in the world. I want to see tourists by the millions walking on the shores of Tobago, embracing this virgin, untouched, paradisic island of Tobago. I want to see the standard of quality of life of every Tobagonian that's watching this episode right now improve. I want to see opportunity afforded to you regardless of your social strata. I want to see a new generation for that of your children, that they would have the opportunity, come out of school with opportunity of employment and jobs that are available. I want to see a better healthcare system for the elderly in Tobago, those that they feel a level of comfort and protection in. So I tell you, to all of Tobago, their dream of a better Tobago, and then wake up and let's fight for it. Sometimes we have to war for that of peace.
And I don't know if this might be a bit controversial to ask, but can we see a connection between the All People's Party and the Tobago People's Party happening anytime soon?
I would say to you that only God knows the future.
Right.
And I'm not yet a fortune teller or a psychic. Yes.
All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for coming on and giving your time this morning and telling us everything that you have been doing to persist and to persevere and to launch this new political party into action. We want to thank you so much for being here this morning. We have unfortunately come to the end of this discussion with my guest this morning, Ms. Kezel Jackson.
Shenell, allow me to say something
No
on
problem.
air to you. The quality of journalism that you produced this morning, the level of questions that were asked this morning, your poise this morning. Sometimes we know when good is owing, we ought to say something. As a former educator, and I'll say I'll constantly be an educator because I've taught journalism to many journalists, and you stand above many. My girl, my dear friend, I say keep up the good work. When they pelt stones at you, remember that your tree is bearing well.
All right. We thank you so much for that. So unfortunately, we end our discussions here. We're going to take a quick break and I'll be back right after this. See you soon, guys.